Hello and welcome. This is Impactpreneur by Connecting in Foundation SRCC chapter, which delves right into the depths of social entrepreneurship and the various aspects involved in it.
An engineer by qualification, Naman Bansal is the program manager of digital night schools at Barefoot College. Previously, Naman co-founded and headed execution at Vidyalaya Vistaar. He has completed the prestigious Vision India Foundation Fellowship. He is also a former State Bank of India Youth for India Fellow, founder at Project Palak, and a former Java developer at Wipro Technologies. Naman received the 2019 Karmaveer Chakra Awards in associated with the United Nations for his work in the field of education and Rashtriya Gaurav Samman 2019 award for his work in his nation building. Without further ado, let's go to the first question, which is very relevant and pressing at the moment. So, what do you think is the future of social entrepreneurship? How can we expect it to grow or diversify in the coming time?
Yeah, thanks, Ankur, for having me here on this podcast. It's the first time I'm doing something like this, so thank you very much. To your question regarding what is the future of social entrepreneurship, in one word, I would say it's quite bright. And I have my reasons to believe for that. For example, many institutions at the present, if you will observe, like for example, when I joined or when I jumped into social entrepreneurship 5 years back, there were not many opportunities for young social entrepreneurs to do things, or to come up with things or to get support. But if you'll see now, there are a lot of fellowships. There are a lot of NGOs who provide good support and good encouragement for these youngsters. So that is one of the reasons. Second, in India, we have this. With law also, we have this CSR law, which actually tells all those companies who basically have a profit of, let's say, in India, I think it's around 100 crore rupees. So if you have a profit greater than that, so you have to spend a considerable amount of that profit in doing these charitable work. So with that law also, a lot of companies have also opened up, and they have also re-strategized their operations in terms of not just working for their product, which is a very business oriented product, but also to make sure that they work with the communities and work for social causes. So both the institutions coming up and both the CSR law have actually structured this whole social entrepreneurship sector. And the third thing would be that the overall quality of life, I would say that it's increasing. Like if you'll see, in the entire world, there are only 1/7. There are 1/7 of the people in the entire world who live on more than $32 a day, which is quite a considerable number of people, and more and more people are actually going forward and coming out of poverty and all of those things. So since the quality of life has been changing, there are a lot of people who have especially in the upper strata of the income structure, who now want to do more than just earn money, right? So they want to spend their time, and they want to invest their energies into doing something which is much more than just earning money or having a good life, because a lot of people today have a sort of good life. I'm not saying that not that everybody has that. No, it's not like that. We are still a level two or an income level two country, and we have a long way to go. But in India also, there are a lot of people who want to go and do all of those things. So I think these are the three major reasons why I say that the future of social entrepreneurship is bright. And I also meet, I am also only 28 years of age, but I also meet a lot of people who, in their later age, also are jumping into social entrepreneurship, and even youngsters are jumping into social entrepreneurship. So that sector is, I would say, quite bright. But having said that, there are certain concerns also which which I have since this sector is opening up. For example, if you I mean, one of the things which was missing when I joined in this sector, like like opportunities for youngsters to sort of figure out and have mentorship and all of those things, they are in quite a number of ways available to us today. But there comes a point in time in every sector. Like IT sector also reached a point in time where it got saturated, and I would say it's still in that phase. So this sector is also moving towards, I feel, the social entrepreneurship sector, or I would say the social entrepreneurship bubble in a way is also moving towards reaching that saturation point, and it might come that we have a lot of people. I mean, we know that in India, unemployment is a huge issue. So it might happen that this sector, which has opened up, it might lead to a situation where there are a lot of people who want to just be a part of this sector, and that might cause a complete saturation. Second thing, I would say that one of the most important things to be relevant in this sector and to be actually to be able to contribute in the right manner in this sector is to be empathetic. So you can't just bring all of the skills that you have, let's say, learned in a business school or in some other sector and just completely apply here as it is. You have to be empathetic to the people. So if this if the social entrepreneurs of next generation or if the social entrepreneurship as a sector just focuses on making careers out of this, then we might be losing on empathy, which is very, very necessary for anyone to do really credible work in this sector. So that is the second of my concern. As I said, the first concern is definitely saturation of the sector, and the second is the lack of empathy that might come with that. Um, yeah, and the third I would say is something that I already mentioned, was the generalization that more and more people from different backgrounds are jumping into this sector with this feeling that we want to do something for the people. But in order to be able to do something for the people, you need to understand the people first, which is where a lot of people have a miss. So and that what that results into is that we have wrong solutions in the minds of the people who are sort of giving solutions. It's the right solution, but for the communities, for the people that we actually work on the ground, that might be a completely wrong solution at the end. So since we don't live with the people sometimes, and or either we are let's say just sitting in Delhi and creating solutions for the poor in, let's say, a small village in Betia in Bihar, that might be a very different scenario. So I think that is something that is slowly creeping into this sector, and that is something that we must be really wary about. So yeah.
Uh, rightly pointed out, sir. So like there are many people who like they don't have about empathy and all, and they are more into profit making like mindset. Sir, as you said that CSR is something which government always supported the company, but there are many social entrepreneurs who are unable to get that CSR funding from the company. So like what do you suggest them? Should they go with the ideas, or should they what do they do? Because there are many problems they are facing in CSR.
Okay, so I would first like to clarify that I mean, profit is not a bad thing. So profit is definitely one of the most important things. But profit only is not a goal of a social entrepreneur. It cannot be. The goal of a social entrepreneur is much beyond that, and for that he needs empathy. He needs to live with the people. He needs to be grounded in terms of what solutions he or she brings about to the table. So profit, yes, it's important because it helps you sustain. It helps you because a social entrepreneur is not that person who it was initially, who had there's this image that when I jumped into this sector, there was this image with which where my family used to tell me कि अच्छा अब तो आप झोला लेके कुर्ता पजामा पहन के चलने लगोगे. But that's not the image of social sector anymore. I mean, there are people, and with all due respect, there are people who are doing that, and they're doing incredible work. But money and profit is also equally important if you want to sustain in this sector for a long time, because not everyone's family can support such a decision. Not you as an individual can support a decision. In Indian philosophy, we also say that like artha, which basically means economic progress, is also one of the major things to sustain the life, right? So yeah. Uh, what was the other question that you asked?
So CSR problem in CSR, getting CSR funding.
Yeah, I think, CSR funds are quite available, to be very true. I mean, there are a lot of opportunities for youngsters and for young social entrepreneurs to apply to them. And I have seen a lot of these youngsters getting those fellowships or getting those funds as well. But I mean, one of the things that I observed, and I was also there at one point in time, was that we become completely empowered by this. Not, I would not say empowered, but completely into that idea that we don't really understand or don't really see what the CSR organization is looking at. For example, let's say if the goal of a CSR organization, or let's say if the goal of a particular organization which is distributing CSR funding is to work towards the upliftment of education, or towards women empowerments, then you cannot, let's say, go and ask them for funds for something else. I mean, they have a very focused sort of an approach, and that is only where they will distribute those funds. Second is that as youngsters we need to understand that what is the language that those CSR organizations want us to speak. So if they want us to I mean, and we need to learn that language. So if they want us to speak in a particular language, which not only, let's say, just have empathetic aspects of your program, but also how are you going to sustain it? What is your long term strategy? And what will happen if you fail, let's say? So we need to answer all of those questions and prepare all of those questions as well beforehand, so that when we go and sort of approach these CSR organizations, it's difficult for them to say no. So I would say that yes, your problem on which you are working on as a young entrepreneur might seem to be the biggest problem, and your solution might seem to be the best solution that is available, but that not might be the case. The case might be completely different. So we need to be really cautious of that, and continuously keep on checking whether the problem that we have identified, or the problem that we are working, or the solution that we are proposing is something that the CSR organizations or the funding organizations or anybody else would want to sort of take up and speak their language in which they understand, and understand in what sector do they want to contribute, and till how much. So these are the things I would think would be beneficial for a young entrepreneur.
Thank you so much. So moving on to the next question. Can you elaborate more on your experience and how you came up with your idea? What were the research points and what were your inspiration at that time?
Okay, so I was part of the Vision India Foundation Fellowship, so I will go back to the journey that I made from Wipro Technologies to joining SBI Youth for India Fellowship. Wipro was one of the biggest organizations that you can work with, and I had a sort of set career that was ahead of me, but I was not very happy at that place. And during those times, the concept of fellowships and the concept of social work had started to build up, and it was not an old jhola pakad ke chalne wala concept, but it was much more interesting. So I applied for the SBI Youth for India Fellowship, and I got through, and I was placed in Bihar, where for the first time I was told that this is your year, and you can try what you want to do, but definitely do try. And it was a very interesting year, and in that year, I for the first time I realized that I had a passion for education, that I want to work with kids, because in our education system, it's such, I mean, all of us know that it's very difficult to try out your passions. I mean, at one point in time, you just are after either, I mean, either becoming a lawyer or a doctor or an engineer, or all of these other things. But very hardly you see anybody aspiring to become a teacher or aspiring to work with children, right? So it was the first time that I realized that I have this passion, and I realized that I have certain skills also in terms of being able to raise money, being able to communicate well with the teachers and with the larger community that I was working with, and being able to display what I wanted to communicate, being able to write. So in that year of trying, I realized a lot of things about myself that I couldn't have realized even that I didn't actually realize even through my entire education that I received. So for that 1 year, I was in a very small village in Bihar, and during that time, I came up with the project, which the name of which was Project Palak, where I used to go to different schools and teach stories to children. And in one of the schools that I selected, I raised around 2.5 lakhs in 45 days to make sure that that particular school has a computer library and a storytelling lab sort of a thing, a combined sort of a thing, and also trained the teachers there to sort of carry on the work. So in 1 year, I raised money. I sort of trained the teachers, also told stories, and yeah, and learned about a lot of other things about myself and about this profession. After that, I had a difficult choice to make, because I had told my parents and my family that I will be here only for a year, and after that maybe I'll go to do an MBA, because a lot of people do that they come into this sector, they experience it, and then they just go and do an MBA. It doesn't make sense at all. But it does make sense socially, as in, because I mean, that is something that the MBA applications or other applications want, whether you have worked socially or not, and all of those things. So, but it didn't make sense to me. I felt that I'm cheating. I felt that this is not the right approach, that I have come here and I've gained so much and yeah, and it was a constant struggle. And but I decided against it. I realized that no, I have to be in this sector. And then there was another opportunity at that time, which was with Vision India Foundation, and it was a really tough fellowship interview. I mean, there are, I think, around 5 to 6 stages that we had to go through, and I was finally selected. The concept of the fellowship was that you will be researching on the Indian education system. I mean, the ancient Indian education system, and how it can also support us in today's education system, and even the present education system. It was, I mean, research around that, writing articles, and all of those things. So, as it's a 3 year fellowship. It's only for those people who wanted to have, or who wanted to build a career into, let's say, in my case, in the education sector. So I was up for it, and I joined it. And in the starting itself, we identified certain schools who were doing very different education. Schools like Gyan Prabodhini in Pune, schools like Rishi Valley in Tamil Nadu, and schools like Riverside School in Ahmedabad. Like we basically researched about those schools, and then we went on a very long travel for a month and a half travel to visit all of these schools, and basically research on what these schools are doing differently, and how we can learn, and maybe advise the government, or maybe start our own enterprise or something like that. So it was just an exposure that we went for, but with this idea that we want to learn about education as a subject, and we want to learn how teachers teach, how students learn, how the management functions, and all of those things. And after 1.5 months, we sat back, and we also visited Aurobindo schools, by the way, in Pondicherry. So it not only took us to these schools, but it also took us to a journey of educating ourselves by traveling throughout India. right? So we traveled throughout India, and it was a fascinating experience. And after that, when we came back, we took a lot of time to sort of reflect back on our learnings, and we wrote it down. And after 6 months, during those 6 months, I also sort of tried to explore my writing capability. So I wrote for different magazines, which included Logical Indian, and then I also got published in the print edition of DNA India, one of my articles. So, uh, but the entrepreneurship kida was always there in me, and after 6 months, an opportunity came where we were actually sort of approached to work with the government schools in Vrindavan in Uttar Pradesh, in Mathura Vrindavan in Uttar Pradesh. So our mentor was an IIT Delhi professor at Vision India Foundation. So he had basically introduced us to the Vrindavan people, and that is where we went. So in January 2017 or 2018, I think we went to Vrindavan, and there was absolutely nothing there. I mean, we I mean. You I don't know whether you have gone to the government schools in the countryside in this country, but some of them are of okay quality, but most of them are of really poor quality. So we visited all of those schools, and we lived in a cow shed, you can say, for 2 months, because we did not have anything or any credible support at that point in time, and we were just starting. So we would travel to these schools, understand what their problem is, and sort of figure out from the research that we had done, that what we can do to sort of support all of these schools. And then we came up with the concept of Vidyalaya Vistaar. So the idea of Vidyalaya Vistaar had started, I think, in December 2018 itself, or maybe before that itself, September, October 18. But we went on the ground in January, and when we went on the ground for 2 months, we were just sort of building relationships with people, figuring out where we can live, figuring out how we can eat, and figuring out what is the best solution that we can do for that we can come up for these schools. And we did come up with the with Vidyalaya Vistaar. The original name of it was School Plus. So the idea was very simple. The idea was that all of the things that the government schools are supposed to do but are not able to do for some or the other reason, we are going to support them to do that. We are not going to replace the government schools completely, but we are going to support them. So we came up with 12 different interventions, such as organizing travel programs, because during my travel program across India, I realized that I learned a lot, things that I cannot read in or cannot learn in the books. I learned a lot. So but when we asked the teachers and the government school principal that do you go on the travel, most of them don't, even though they have a budget for it. And all of and those who do, there is not really something educational about those travels. So this concept actually came into being from first my own travels, and also Isha Home School we visited. Isha Home School is a school run by Sadhguru in Coimbatore. It was a school that we went to, and we realized that that is something that they do, that they take all of the children and into a nearby forest, and the children just learn about nature there. So we figured out we should do something like that with the government schools as well, because government schools gave us scale. And we did those programs. The program was called Rahi. With the teachers, we realized when we interacted with them that they have a lot of pressure. The government school teachers have a lot of pressure, but they're highly skilled in terms. When I say highly skilled, I would say that they are highly educated. We realized that rather than telling them what they need to teach, we should tell them why they should teach. So what we would do is that we would invite really great educationists from all over the country, and we would have them interact with these government school teachers, and they would ask questions, and then that learning happens. So that is what we did with the teachers. So we realized that we don't need to actually train them in anything. But we just need to make them understand that why they need to teach, and yeah. And the third major thing that we did, so one was working with the teachers by motivating them. Second was working with the students with various programs. One of those programs I mentioned was Rahi, the travel program, but there were other programs also, which I'm not going into detail right now. And the third thing, and the most important thing that we did, was that we realized that there is a growing bridge between the schools, the government schools, and the communities that they serve. So we set up these small committees. I mean, they have school management committees, all the government schools, but we also set up individual committees in these schools and interacted and made them interact and made them participate in the normal day-to-day functioning of the school. And we focused a lot on that. And the third and the fourth thing that we did was that we also supported some of the schools in the infrastructure development. So we collaborated and partnered with a lot of IAS and IPS officers and other business people who would want to support an initiative like this. And we just asked them that you adopt some of these schools and support the infrastructure related costs. So we supported at least 5 schools, or maybe around 10 schools, if I'm not wrong. And we were working, and there came a point in time when within 6 months, we were able to scale it up to 108 schools. So we started working with just 10 odd schools. But later on, within the next 6 months, we started working with 108 schools all over Mathura and Vrindavan. So that was the overall program. Yeah.
Okay, thank you so much, sir. So moving on to the last question, sir. Any suggestions for the young social entrepreneurs out there?
Okay, I am not, I think, sort of a person who can suggest a lot of things, but I'm just trying to think about my own experiences and just trying to share it with those people who have never been on this journey. I think one of those would be that you need to choose your team wisely, because, the people that you work with, I think that is very important. I mean, for example, with my organization also, there came a point in time when individual aspirations became very important rather than the collective team and the collective goal. So, and that is the reason that I had to sort of say that, okay, I need to move on from my organization, and it's a hard thing to do, to be very honest. But that is where the lesson also lies. That first, you need to definitely build your team wisely, but they do share the same goal. So that's one of the things. Second is be ready for the failure and be ready to let it go. So, I mean, Steve Jobs is one of the people that everyone talks about, but he was not really good at letting go. I would say that he was really upset when Apple was taken away from him, but he did let it go in a way, and he said that, okay, even if I'm letting it go now, I'm going to build something. He built next, right? Next computers. So, he built that, and then he Apple actually came back to him again. So be okay with the failures and be okay to let what you are building to go in a way. I mean, it is going to be tough, but just start building with that idea that there might come a point in time that there might come a challenge that you will have to let it go, and that is okay, that you will restart as an entrepreneur. As an entrepreneur, most of the entrepreneurs, if you'll talk about, they would share this, that okay, they need to let it go, and then they need to rebuild again something else. And then uh, the third would be knowing when to stop. So one of the things that one of the mistakes, at least, that I did was that that I there was this idea about a solution that I wanted to bring forward to the communities that I'm working with, or to the children that I was working with. It was my idea, and it was really precious to me. So we need to keep on rechecking it and knowing when to stop doing that. So if we stop, if let's say I would have stopped doing that, I'm talking about my former project by the name of Palak, where I had certain ideas, but the community had certain other ideas about how they wanted their education to be. So it's a long journey, right? So we know when we need to stop and to do it quickly. If you want to fill it quickly, if you want to stop, do it quickly, but keep on learning. And yeah, I think these would be the three things that I would leave the young entrepreneurs to be, and just be passionate. I think passion is something that is really important, but also focus on the skill building part. Like you need passion, but you also need skills. If you don't know all the skills, you should know the basics of all of those skills, so that someone else who knows those skills don't really end up making a fool out of you. So yeah, I think these are the only suggestions that I so far in my journey could come up with, and hopefully will help other people.
So adding on to that, Steve Jobs even told that getting fired out of from the company was the best thing that happened in his life. So it is right that we should let it go. Thank you so much sir, for your time. We got to learn a lot of things, and social entrepreneurs, all young social entrepreneurs will learn from this. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you, Ankur. Thank you for having me. Thank you, Janvi, for approaching me to do this. Looking forward to do something like this more in the future. Yeah, thank you.
Hope you liked today's episode. Thank you, and stay tuned for more informative bites on the aspects of entrepreneurship by connecting Dreams Foundation SRCC chapter.